DraftKings tight end analysis for Week 17. I'm Jason Gilbert, JGilbert11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay, who's tucked away into the darkness of Week 17. If you can barely even see him, turn on the light.
Sometimes in life we make tough decisions, and before I sat down, I did not choose to turn the light on, so I'm just going to have to live with the consequences until Jason starts talking at some point.
So it's the middle of winter, which means, it's dark at 4 p.m. as Russ. I'm just buying time so Russ can turn on a light. So I'm just here talking about stuff, and he's back. He turned on a light, so
I'm Arctic blue now. Better than my normal pale attire. But, I got to say, 17 weeks into tight end, and it has not been a fun journey.
No.
The injuries really, really crushed a lot of production this year. This is the worst tight end year in probably 10 years. So, with that said, I think there are some decent matchups, but overall, with the resting, with, injuries, it's ugly.
Yeah, it is. And kind of getting into it here, Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed, both two top guys with questionable tags this week. If they play, is there any sense that you're buying into them as a GPP dart or more just kind of fading?
I'm just fading. I don't want any part of it. There's risky, and then there's might get a 0, and that's Jordan Reed to me at this stage. Greg Olsen, obviously, if positive reports come back in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then I'm cool with it. But right now, it doesn't look like they're too interested in winning right now. So I don't know that he's going to play, and even if he does, he's probably not going to get a full grouping of snaps. So with other good, decent options at the top, I'm not,
Yeah, and I think right below them are a couple of guys that you're on: Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz. Ertz getting a little price bump here in a good matchup. I was kind of surprised to see him at 4,800 and kind of priced up with the elite of the group, but I think in this matchup, I can see why.
Yeah, and reports coming out: Zeke's only going to play a half. The offense is only going to play a half. Mark Sanchez is going to be playing a lot. This game could go back and forth, and finally give this Eagles offense a chance to actually open things up with Carson Wentz first time in a long time. Zach Ertz, obviously only 2 targets last game, but you look at his game logs before that, and he was racking up targets like he loves to do at the end of the year. Dallas, below average against tight ends to begin with. We'll see what backups are in there to begin the game. I expect 10 targets for Ertz, and at 4,800, I think you just fire away there.
Yeah, for me, he's my top tight end this week. Great matchup against Dallas, as you put it. Pretty much, Philly should be able to move the ball against whatever that defenses they roll out this week in terms of backups or starters. But either overall, this Dallas team hasn't been good against tight ends this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so generally speaking, it's a decent matchup with the addition of them resting guys much better.
Yeah, definitely. Travis Kelce, coming off a monster week, the 80-yard screen pass for a touchdown. Had a couple quiet games, before Tennessee and Oakland. Oakland was a decent week, but Tennessee was kind of, a little bit modest in terms of what he's been doing. But he's been flashing kind of some upside finally.
Well, what's interesting is that Macklin came back in that Tennessee game, and you kind of think, oh, back to normal, back to old Travis Kelce production, 6 to 8 targets a game. He makes some amazing plays, and then we don't see him for the rest of the game. But no, guys, quit. They went back to it against Denver. It worked the time before against Denver. 4 out of the last 5 games, Travis Kelce's over 18 DK points. I think you trust it at this point. He's been awesome all year. Clearly a tremendous athlete in a pretty good matchup against the Chargers. Chiefs still trying to get that bye if they can get to 13 wins and Oakland loses. So I think this is a pretty interesting move. They're trying to win here. So $5K for Kelce. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. We kind of go through this next grouping here, and I'll rattle off some names, and you can stop me if anyone kind of catches your eye. Kyle Rudolph, Jimmy Graham, I mean Delaney Walker, Antonio Gates. I mean, how you feeling about any of those guys?
Ugh. Antonio Gates is the most dreadful matchup. And, it's kind of like the magnets of, oh, Antonio Gates narrative street might be his last game. Oh, but he's playing Kansas City. Oh, no. And, you know, you just don't want to deal with it. Like, I just wish we could X that game out of the slate. Just him out of the slate. And that'd be really appreciated by me. I mean, I think CJ Fedorowicz is okay, an okay play at 39. He's not a great play. Tough to envision much production from Delaney Walker with Marcus Mariota not in there. I, I don't know about Jimmy Graham, man. It's a good matchup, but overall, I don't think I'm gonna have much exposure. I'd rather just jump up to Ertz or Kelsey if I'm in that range.
Yeah, I mean the targets really haven't been there. 4, 2, and 3 over the last 3 weeks. And, while the matchup really hasn't been there against Arizona, that's where he found the touchdown. But other than that, I mean, it really lackluster. We kind of get into a grouping here next where I think a game that matters tremendously features two tight ends I'm interested in, Jared Cook and Eric Ebron. I mean, do you have a preference over the two?
Ebron last week, we kind of talk about splits with Golden Tate. Ebron 12 targets. That's their game plan, and they're going to continue to use him against this Green Bay secondary. Obviously has the ability to, make some big plays down the seam there. So I like him quite a bit. I think he's a potential cash game option with the way this game's going to go. It's going to be high paced. Rodgers going to be tossing the ball all over the field. Ebron's a nice correlation and just play on his own. I would look for him, at any point when you need someone sub 4K. I think he's a solid option.
Yeah, I mean, 8 targets in that game earlier this year against Green Bay, caught 5 of them for 70 yards. And the targets have been there of late. I mean, 6, 5, 7, and 12. I mean, we always kind of go back to that Minnesota game on Thanksgiving where he saw 1 target and dropped a big fat 0 on us. But since then, I mean, 7, 7, 17, it hasn't been bad for his price tag.
Absolutely. And Jared Cook, love that play. 3,100, relatively cheap. But, overall, based on what he's given us this year, just a tournament guy.
Yeah, floor is definitely rather low with him. I mean, these other names here, Dante Moncrief continues to not practice this week. I mean, that would open up Jack Doyle. But for me, I mean, I think with Jared Cook right there, I kind of rather take the upside.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with Doyle, but hasn't seemed to have much upside since, he had those upside games in early on when Chester Rogers was the second receiver. I don't think that's the case anymore. So I kind of am off him for the future, I suppose.
Yeah. And I mean, Colby Fleener, 3,100, we can just stop ourselves from doing that to our, doing that to our lineups.
Brandon Myers is someone I think you can throw a tournament punt at 2,700. I mean, teams are going to still continue to guard Mike Evans like they are. If, obviously Cameron Brate on IR, Brandon Myers kind of fills that role, kind of a similar player. So I think you could see some Cameron Brate usage from Brandon Myers this week as well, 2,700.
Yeah, I saw 6 targets last week in a game where, Brate left the game. Yeah, I mean, 2,700. So anyone else?
And no Jason Witten. Obviously they talked about the Cowboys potentially only playing 1 half. Witten got that touchdown last week, but hasn't really been a target hog very often of late. So I know he's cheap, but I would avoid that.
Yeah, certainly. So anyone else you like here this week, or those pretty much the guys?
Yeah, that's I don't know what to do with Dennis Pitta. I mean, I think he's viable at 34, but certainly not my favorite play.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to be talking about Dennis Pitta, but I think because of pricing and the guys around him, I'd rather take a shot at some other ones there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to wrap up the DraftKings tight end analysis for Week 17. If you want to check out Russ's article and his top tight end picks, you can head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. Be sure to check out the rest of our Week 17 content.